Welcome to the Experience Darden podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. So it's the first week of school here at the Darden School of Business. And in honor of this occasion, we wanted to talk a little bit more about all the support and resources that are available to students before they start school. I could think of no better person to talk with us about than my admissions colleague, Whitney Kestner. Whitney is the Managing Director of Admissions for the Full-Time MBA program here, and she's intimately involved with the onboarding and orienting process for our full-time MBA students. So without further ado, here's my interview with Whitney Kestner. Whitney, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Brett. So great to be here.
It's great to have you here. Of course, you're a repeat guest here on the podcast. How's everything going? How are you doing?
I am well. It is the end of the summer and have the students on grounds this week. All of our students, our full-time, our executive, and our part-time students. So needless to say, it has been super exciting, high energy here on the Darden grounds.
Absolutely. We started the week with an all Darden welcome, the first of its kind. We've never had full-time, part-time, and executive MBA students
and PhD
all in the same room. About 600 people, all being welcomed by Darden leadership and sharing a little bit more about the incredible classes that are here. It's a wonderful way to start the week. It's hard to believe. I mean, we're recording this on Friday. Kind of lose track of time on these weeks. There's so much happening. There's so many events and programming for the students, and you see them in class, out of class, doing things, exploring Charlottesville. It's a great week.
It truly is. So getting to reconnect with so many of the students that we got to know through the admissions process, getting to meet so many people that we may have talked through Zoom too, but to see them in person and having students coming from all over the United States and all over the world. So it is.
Yeah, students always ask me, what do I like about this week? And the thing that I always remind them is this is the first time we've ever seen the full class together.
Yes.
Right. So on the working professional side, we meet people in October and in January and May, June, July. And so, we meet people in these kind of increments, but we've never seen the full class together. And this is the first time we've ever had everybody in the same room and at the end of the cycle. And it's just an incredible moment of like, oh my gosh, this is the class.
Agreed. So a big shout out to Darden's leadership for making that happen, to Melissa Thomas Hunt, Yael Grishna-Kakane, to Mark Johnson, and so many others for that vision and bringing it to a reality.
Absolutely. Well, we want to talk today about what happens for students before they get here to grounds. Maybe a bit of underreported story here, but nevertheless, a really important part of the student journey. And there's so much that happens before the start of school to help get students ready for the Darden experience. And you are so intimately involved with this onboarding process. Thought it'd be great to talk a little bit about this because it is the first week of school and it feels like a good time to kind of check in with what's been happening with these students over the past few months as they got ready for this moment.
Right.
All right. So how would you describe Darden's approach to helping students prepare for the start of their MBA program?
Yeah, I think a very thoughtful process, recognizing that everyone, particularly for the full-time residential program here in Charlottesville, everyone is moving here from somewhere else, most likely. And so picking up and not just starting a graduate program, but moving. And sometimes it's them, the student, sometimes it's with a partner, a family. And so there's so many things to be thinking about. And so I think Darden's approach is really trying to provide a lot of really helpful information, in essence, sort of a timeline to help that transition, to help students be thinking about the important milestones and what they need to be doing. I think there's a really thoughtful approach to thinking about not just the logistics of this move, but also where they're coming from in terms of their academic readiness and their professional aspirations, and providing some resources to, in some cases, level up, in many cases to sort of begin that conversation, to share and sort of raise awareness about the many different resources. So comprehensive, maybe, comprehensive and thoughtful.
It sounds right to me. I mean, your point about everybody coming from somewhere else and moving here, I think that's one of the great things about the experience here, because you think about some schools, maybe in big cities, where school is really just where you go to school and your life really plays out outside of school. Great thing about being here in Charlottesville is everybody's relocating typically for this experience, and they're coming. And the school is not only an academic hub, but it's also a social hub for the students. And so that is one of the unique aspects of the experience here, and why it's so rich for folks. And you're right, this is comprehensive. There's career resources, academic resources. There's social support, helping students build connections prior to the start of school. So let's talk about some of those resources. One of the things that's available to students prior to matriculation is a self-paced asynchronous course that our career colleagues have put together called CDWhy Finding, or CDWhy for short. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, so our friends in the Career Center developed this several years ago, and then every year they continue to iterate and modify. But it is self-paced, online, a series of modules that help students understand more about the general recruiting timeline for business school students, talk about recruiting within some of the popular industries. So recruiting for consulting may look different than recruiting for opportunities in tech or in general management, investment banking, and the like. So there's some common, there are definitely some common parts of the process of the career search process and career research, but then there are also nuances within the industry. So I think it's helping students just get a better lay of the land and understand those. There are some self-assessment components to it. So as students are continuing on this period of exploration and self-reflection, that we know that they've done a significant amount of work as they've gone through actually the application process. And so really looking to build on that. So that is the online, as we mentioned, self-paced modules. Students also have a chance to schedule an appointment with one of our career coaches, so that career check-in meeting. And so those begin at the beginning of June and run through the summer. And so every incoming full-time student has that opportunity to talk with a career coach, and again, learn more about the process, the resources, connect one-on-one, and then that really flows into the programming with the start of school.
And one of the consistent themes when we talk with students here on the podcast, when we ask them for advice, one of the things that they say around career is the more you can know about what you'd like to do career-wise by the time you get here for the start of school, generally the better off you'll be, because things just move so quickly. There's so much opportunity, people going in all kinds of directions. And if you don't really have that clarity, it can feel kind of like you're just kind of following the crowd a little bit, and can be tough for students. And having these resources available prior to the start of school, maybe when you have a little bit more space and time to engage with these questions, it feels like it can be really helpful for someone so they can hit the ground running when they show up here in August.
Definitely. And I think there's always going to be that balance, hopefully, between having, working towards clarity and doing that research and talking to people so that you can hit that ground running, of course, and then being open to the opportunities as they present themselves. And I really, hats off to our career colleagues for working so closely with the students and helping them really partner through that career search journey. And just, I love the programming that they do. I think the really personal connection and really wanting to know each student, more about what they're excited about, what their interests are, helping them think about their career process as, certainly thinking about the internship and that first job after they graduate, but also, the duration of their professional career and where they see themselves further down the road, and what are some possible pathways towards pursuing those aspirations.
Yes, so that you mentioned there, that has come up in our conversations with our career colleagues, is that it always starts with the individual, right? These are, you work closely with a student, try to understand their story, where they'd like to go, and really develop a plan for that student. And it's a team sport here at Darden, right? This is the thing that also comes up, right? It's not just the career team. You also have second-year coaches. Right. You have the clubs and organizations that play an important role, right. Consulting club, finance club, tech club, et cetera. And so there's this whole group of people who are here to help and support students as they engage in their internship search. They think about what they'd like to do post-graduation. So obviously a ton of support that includes both students as well as staff members and even faculty. So let's talk about the academic resources that are available to students. I think we talk with prospective students. First question I think a lot of people have on their mind as they look at an MBA program, do I have the right academic background? Is there a right academic background, this kind of thing? And of course, our answer is many different students can be successful here. And you can come from lots of different places to Darden. You have lots of different backgrounds to Darden and succeed and excel. But still, some students may say, like, look, I don't know that much about things like accounting, finance, topics that I'm going to see again in the program. How do I brush up? How do I get ready for school? Tell us a little bit more about the resources and support that are available along those lines.
Yeah. Just further underscoring that, Brett, in terms from an admissions standpoint, we don't have any prerequisites. We don't have any required courses or backgrounds for our students. And so from an admissions perspective, we're going to ask for information and evaluate candidates and kind of understand more about their readiness for a top MBA program. So if a student is admitted to Darden, that's great. And they, are planning to come, and then recognizing that, yes, they may feel like there's some gaps, there's some areas that they would like to spend more time on or, get some exposure to prior to the start of school. One of our well-known, beloved accounting faculty is Lou Ann Lynch, and she created a financial and managerial accounting Coursera courses. And so for every student who is admitted to Darden, they will get access shortly after being admitted. They will gain access to both of those accounting courses. They are not required. They are simply a great resource to, again, brush up, as you said, or introduce you to material that you may not have had exposure to. So I think that's been tremendous. And I think really students, some students jump on that and want to begin working on that preparation. Some, given their maybe commitments in their life, may choose to work on that over the summer before the start of school. But I think that's definitely a really helpful and important resource right off of the bat. Then later in the spring, we have another academic program called Be Ready, which is similar to our Career Development Why Finding. It's online self-paced modules. Be Ready was designed and the brainchild of another fantastic faculty member, Mark Lipson. And so Be Ready covers finance as well as Excel, some basic concepts. And so Mark has created this and continues to refine every year. And so that goes live in the spring. And so another way for students to brush up or, begin to work on that material. Our most well-known, I would say, and most comprehensive academic pre-matriculation offering is Darden Before Darden, which is our in-person 7-day program that leads up to opening week, our orientation. And so Darden Before Darden gives students this incredible opportunity to be in the classroom, to be working through material that is more quantitative in nature, to experience the case method, to work with a learning team, to prep the cases, to really participate in that classroom discussion led by our faculty. So again, Mark Lipson, this is his Darden Before Darden is a program he designed many years ago, and he leads, and so it's truly wonderful. I mean, it definitely, students are kind of thrown right in, but they just rave about the experience and how it helps them, get more comfortable with some of the more quantitative concepts early on. This opportunity, for U.S. As well as students coming from outside of the United States, learning in the case method is new for pretty much everyone. And so this discussion-based learning, being able to feel comfortable speaking up, listening, sharing your perspective. So Darden Before Darden, 7 days leading up to opening week. And so, yeah, I've heard just wonderful feedback from the students who participated in that this year.
Yeah, so lots of support across the academic front. And one of the things that starts happening, I feel like kind of winter, spring time frame, is there start to be these town halls that the team will host. And all kinds of people from the Darden leadership on these calls as well. Admissions is there, career is there. What are these events about? What purpose do they serve in this kind of orienting process?
Yeah, town halls have, really started more internal. We have regular staff and faculty town halls, and the administration will host town halls for the students throughout the year. And so this really came about during the pandemic when information and the situation was, we were all experiencing that in real time and a lot of unknowns out there. And so we started to host these virtual town halls for the incoming students. And so the cadence is generally about once a month, starting in March through either June or July. And it is a chance for our incoming students oftentimes to meet the people that they are really going to get to know and spend a lot of time with during the program. So as you go through the admissions process, oftentimes you're talking with a member of the admissions team. And so the town hall has been a great way for Melissa Thomas Hunt, who is our Senior Associate Dean for the Full-Time MBA, to introduce herself. This year she came on board officially July 1, but she joined our May and June town halls. And, she introduced herself and her vision and her background, and I think was really able to forge a connection with the incoming class well before they even stepped foot on grounds. Getting to engage with the dean of the program, to hear from our Office of Student Affairs and our MBA program team, Sarah Elliott and her team, Ed Warwick and his MBA program team. These are the people who are really thinking about your full MBA experience. And so a chance to introduce themselves, share more about what's to come. Our career team joins those town halls. That's helpful as they kind of help our students stay on the timeline and be thinking about sort of the bigger picture and also tactically what they can be doing now. We've had our student leadership on town halls, and so they're going to be able to share so much more about the real experience and what to expect and what they wish they had known and what their advice is. So I find them great, high energy. The incoming students are able to ask questions. So just a really great information sharing.
Yeah, and it's been a nice opportunity also to help the students make some connections amongst themselves, right?
Yeah.
And many of these town halls, there's also a time for breakout rooms.
Yes,
and
I'm glad you mentioned
small
that.
steps. Nevertheless, it's a chance just to meet some of the people, your future classmates.
Totally. I mean, those breakout groups are wonderful at, just in terms of hearing where people are coming from. And I oftentimes find I might be thinking about, okay, I need to do this, or this is my experience. This is what I need to, or this is kind of what I'm worried about. And so to hear one of your classmates, they might ask a question or be thinking about something that it never even occurred to me. So I love that sort of collaborativeness in terms of getting prepared. Maybe a little bit more on that line, in terms of facilitating connections. So we've got WhatsApp groups for our full class of 2025. And then we also had several different groups, whether it's by region of the world, country, from different backgrounds that some of our students have had. So I think those WhatsApp groups have been super fun, great information sharing, great way for people to connect. I think we always hear about people meeting up before they come to Charlottesville. And so just having these many different ways to build connections. One of the things Melissa Thomas Hunt has said several times is, she wants students to have several bites at the apple. It's not just come, show up, meet your learning team, go. Like, she really wanted us to think about what are different ways that the students can engage, many different ways, many different times before they move here.
I was thinking about an in-person event that we had this summer in late July. We had the full-time MBA, part-time MBA, executive MBA students, and MSBA students as well at Nats Park. About 100 people there, and that's the first time we've ever had that event in that particular configuration. We've traditionally just done it as a working professional event, but we opened it up to full-time MBA students this year. And I so enjoyed that because we had people who had just come to the U.S., never been to a baseball game, never been to this kind of sporting event before. This is one of their first things that they had done there. Maybe they had just come into town for the move to Charlottesville, and they're like, "Oh, well, I want to try this out. This is something I want to see." And oh man, that made me so happy. And of course, they also got to meet students from the other formats. But I think we'll be looking to do that again this coming year. But it's stuff like that I think is also really nice to give students a chance not only to meet their classmates, but also maybe meet some of the other MBA students. Kind of picking up on the theme with where we started with opening week. So speaking of our students who are relocating from outside the U.S. To Charlottesville, there's also programming and support for these students. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So every year we host a series of webinars for our students coming from outside of the United States to help to sort of talk about, provide information that is relevant to that move. So everything from going through the I-20 visa process to student life and sort of the practical things of setting up your apartment, furniture, and the sort of cell phone utilities and those necessities. Also career services, beginning to introduce many of our students to how the recruiting process is in the United States. So I think there are definitely some cultural nuance there between maybe recruiting in your home country and how you might have gone through that process versus how things typically may be done in the United States. So a series of webinars leading up to, and then the in-person orientation program, ISOP, International Student Orientation Program, but ISOP, and that kicks things off. So that was July 26th this year, and so just, talk about an exciting day. Just students coming. Some of them had moved to Charlottesville within the last couple of weeks, some, within the last day, but just high energy and just such joy. And so for many of these students, we truly have not met them in person. And so to connect in that way and to see them meeting each other was awesome. ISOP spans a week with a day off in between, as my colleagues like to point out, and it's important to take care of the full self and to make sure there's some rest in between. But ISOP covers a lot. It covers sort of the nuts and bolts about transitioning, getting set up in Charlottesville, understanding and learning more about Darden and the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. There's a lot of content around the career search process. Within the first day of ISOP, the students actually participated in improv, which was, I think, such a great way to get people talking and to get people interacting and sort of break down maybe some of those initial nerves and things like that. So great programming that is coordinated by Larry Mueller, who is our global advisor, Denise Carioli, who is in our Career Center and works closely with our international students, and then our colleague in admissions, Marav Frazier, and a larger team there. It is definitely a team sport, team effort, but ISOP was, that first kickoff to the start of school.
Yeah, I think that's probably the time where it feels like, oh gosh, this is happening, right? We're getting ready, and school is almost here.
Yeah, The halls are beginning to fill up. Looking down into the dining room from our offices and, just seeing the students there is pretty cool.
And so there's also programming. I'm thinking about our consortium students. There's also programming for them. There's Forte events during the summer, and engagement with those populations as well. Anything you would want to highlight about what we do for those groups?
Yeah. Two of many different partners that we have with external organizations. So the Consortium for Graduate Studies and Management, students who apply through the consortium, apply through a common application, if you will, and can apply to up to 6 partner schools. If you're admitted through the consortium, that process, the admissions process, essentially flows into the Darden application process. But one of the real benefits is, maybe I should start by saying the consortium's mission is to increase the number of underrepresented minorities in business. And so U.S. and permanent residents are eligible to apply through the consortium. I think one of many benefits is that it really expands the network, not just your network of your MBA classmates and of your school, but also of the many different partner schools that are part of the consortium. So consortium students are able to go through or attend the orientation program. And so that happens in different cities in June every year. But students will go through that. There is some, programming that's related to sort of all business school students starting their respective programs. There's also opportunities to network. And so there are corporate sponsors who attend orientation programming. So the Darden Consortium students are spending a lot of time with each other, getting to know each other, but they're also doing a lot of fun social activities. And Darden does a really nice job. Christian West, and our admissions team, he works closely with Kellogg Lilleveld and Christy Gunville in our Career Center to do some prep programming. So to help our consortium members feel ready for that networking opportunity. So there's career preparation leading up to something similar with the other partner organization you mentioned, the Forte Foundation, which is a tremendous organization that works with women at many different stages of their career. But again, sort of that similar mindset of resources for women in business. And there's the Forte conference that happens in June as well. And so again, some of that career preparation to help our students participating in that conference feel like they, can talk to a recruiter, share their story, kind of just have more of a sense of how that process and how to be ready.
Yeah, that's another time in the summer where I feel like school is on the verge of starting, where you start to see posts on LinkedIn, photos popping up of people at these conferences. And so hopefully our listeners here are getting a sense of there's quite a bit that happens before you start your MBA program, but it's all positive. It's all here to help and support you as you take this step. And hopefully the thing that people are picking up on here is there's so much support on the career front, on the academic front, socially, right? Yeah. And I think that's also, socially you come to a new environment, maybe you don't really know anybody. How are you going to meet these people? Take full advantage of this stuff that happens prior to the start of school. I always tell people if you can do that, it tends to mean the first day of school doesn't feel like the first day of school, no matter where you are, life, career, coming to a new environment, being in a school environment for the first time in probably a few years, that's change, right? And that can be challenging, but having a support network around you, making some of these relationships before you get started, super, super helpful to folks.
Yeah. And one thing that on that social front that I didn't mention, and this was really the vision of Melissa Thomas Hunt coming into her new role as Dean of the program, is this concept of a Who crew. And so we worked with our colleagues in the student affairs as well as MBA program team. And so created these Who Crew, which for the uninitiated, one of the nicknames of the University of Virginia are the Wahoos, and then shortened to Who's, HOOS. That might be something you come across in your research. And if you go to any UVA sporting event, feel free to cheer for the Who's. So we have our version here of Who Crew. And so this was 10 to 12 students that we grouped together. And actually, we had a recent alum. So she just graduated. Hannah graduated in May, and then she stayed on to do this project over the summer. So created this Who Crew, created some activities, some different ways that they could engage virtually, from kind of your typical icebreaker to creating PowerPoint slides, to introduce themselves, and a good variety. So the students, the Who Crew, were encouraged to participate in 2 of these activities prior to moving to Charlottesville. And then the Sunday, so this past Sunday before opening week started, they all met underneath the tent on Flagler Court and met each other in person and did an activity Sunday afternoon. And then they were encouraged to pick a spot on grounds where they could meet with their Who Crew and then go together to opening week. So I do think it was this wonderful thread, giving this continuity and these familiar faces as they walked into sort of the official opening day or opening week program.
That's so great to hear, because I do think about the dynamics of that, right? You think about it from the individual perspective, right? You're one person, there's 600 people in a room, you got your backpack, like yes. You're here, you're starting an MBA program. There's a lot of swirl of emotions. You're excited, probably a little nervous, right. And that can probably feel overwhelming. So those touch points, I think that really matters to people. It can make a big difference. So any final thoughts that you would want to share about the support that happens for students, or at least philosophy of support for students here at Darden in this pre-matriculation setting?
Yeah, I think going back to your first question, we are both part of the admissions process, and we love what we do, and we're very intentional about how students experience the application process and the resources available to them. And so it's wonderful to be a part of that continuity, coming into the start of school. And so, you and I both work closely with our peers in student affairs and the faculty program leads and the like, to really help ensure this is sort of a smooth transition. And so, yeah, I love it. I so enjoy collaborating with our colleagues. I really love thinking about this experience, thinking about it sort of what it may be for the individuals coming, but then sort of as the collective class. So everybody has their individual experiences. However, they are becoming the class of, in this case, 2025. And that is so cool. It's so fun to be a part of it. And so, yeah, just know that everybody is making that transition, and everybody's learning curve and adjustment is going to be different. And know that there are people who are here and excited and cheering for you all and want to help, want to be a resource. Know that there are these resources, these programs online, in person, whatnot, to really help you help you think about how you want to start your program and what's going to help you feel the most ready to begin. I may not have been as articulate, but I love to be a part of it. And I love that this is something that we think and talk and work through a great deal, because it means a lot to us, and we know it means a lot to our incoming students.
Yeah, I think that absolutely comes through in your answer. The amount of conversation that we've had about these things and the iterative nature of this process, right? So you mentioned how the town halls kind of came out of COVID, and we've continued this practice. Something like Be Ready was developed just a few years ago. The accounting MOOCs, it feels like they've always been there. CDWhy is still relatively new. This Who Crew idea was implemented just this year, right? So we're constantly listening to student feedback, thinking about, what would be helpful to them so that they can have the experience here that they really want to have. And people, they show up first day of class and feel like I'm ready to go. That's ultimately what this is about. So I know this was all about orientation and helping people get ready for the start of school, but we also have a full-time MBA deadline coming up in early September, early action. And so some of our listeners may be working on an application for that deadline. Do you have a piece of advice, something you would encourage them to think about as they work on their materials?
Yes, I know it's exciting.
Yeah.
So already talking to the potential class of 2026, I think with the application, I mentioned it earlier, how intentional we are with this whole process. The application is this great way for you to share with us highlights, things that you've accomplished, things that you're excited about, your goals and aspirations, what you've gotten involved in, what you've done professionally and academically. You are able to share a lot with us through this application. You won't be able to share everything, and that's important. It's important to be able to determine what are the most salient points. What is that narrative that you really want to share? Your story that is unique to you and authentic to you as an individual, and then who you will be within the Darden community. And so taking that time and care, which I know everyone puts in so much time into this process, we really value all of that and getting to know you, through your application and then potentially through an interview. So spending the time on the application, a couple days before you plan to submit, close it, walk away from it, come back with fresh eyes and read it through from start to finish. Making sure if there's any dots that need to be connected or maybe anything that you'd like to explain further, just making sure that there is that through line through your application. And then to those applying in early action, this is a great chance, a great opportunity in this round to self-initiate your interview. So we begin those interviews Monday and we'll continue through the middle part of September. We will continue to open up interview slots through the middle of September. So if you go to schedule your interview and there's not the right time or slot for you, keep checking because we'll open up more. But we're super excited. I mean, this is just such a fun time of year for all the reasons we've talked about with the class starting, but also beginning to interview within this new admission cycle.
Yeah, it's all happening.
It is all happening,
It's all happening
right now.
Yes, absolutely. And so for those of you who are working on an application, best of luck. A lot of resources out there for you on the Discover Darden blog. We have a app tips playlist out there on Spotify. Should also be able to find that on the blog. Application process pages, FAQs. We're always here to help. So Whitney, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and talking about this onboarding orientation experience for students. Because I think this is a bit underreported and there's so much to talk about here and there's so much goodness here. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So thank you so much, Brett.
And that was my conversation with Whitney Kestner, Managing Director of Admissions for the Full-Time MBA program here at the Darden School of Business. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, that's DARDEN, @virginia.edu. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.